Oh, what a nice dog. That's your dog Spot. Reed, I did not know you had a dog. You have 5 minutes. So much. What are you talking about? Anything you choose.
Anything you choose?
Anything you choose.
Where do I go right there?
Yeah, have a seat. We're live streaming on YouTube.
Live streaming.
And the,
so
okay,
we'll
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're live streaming on YouTube. The channel is Juggling Lessons.
Nice.
And it's about street epistemology. That's a conversational method where we ask you what kind of things you believe, why you think so, and we try to very strenuously avoid arguing from an alternative position.
So try and keep it nice.
Yes.
You want this one? Will this work here?
Mask? Yeah, that'll work.
All right. How many people are? Is my mom going to see this? What's going on?
If you want her to. I have like 200 subscribers, so the chances, if you don't tell her, the chances are low.
Right on. Yeah.
Okay, so what is your name?
Sam McDonald.
Sam.
Sam will do, yeah.
Sam will do. So, Sam, tell me a thing that you think is true and affects your choices.
I think it's true and affects my choices. Well, recently I've been dealing a lot with impulsive behavior and trying to actually figure out what is influencing my choices, because a lot of the times it's hard to put a finger on what is causing some of these choices. So it's that's not really a
that's not a claim about the world yet. That's a claim about your questioning your motivations about choices.
Yeah, I don't really have too many profound views in the world or anything like that.
So what when I act on impulse, what kind of motivations could apply?
It's a lot of, well, I don't know, because for me, impulsion has to do with it's usually outside of logic or something like that. So that makes me consider it like more impulsive when you don't take into account everything, or even if you do and you see the logical choice, you still will act on impulsion. And I think it's kind of tied to like an emotional response outweighing a logical one at times.
Okay. So do you often find that your emotions and your logic are at odds?
Yeah.
Okay. In a case like that, how do you choose? How do you choose between?
It depends on what feeling is stronger. Sometimes the impulsion is so strong that you know, the mind is made up, and as soon as that happens, that like you pass that threshold, there's no logic almost has no place in the conversation anymore. So then it's you know, it's like this has already been made up, this is happening. So then the logic brain switches to, okay, how are we going to manage this instead of how are we going to stop it?
I remember when I was young, if I was hungry and there wasn't leftovers, if I opened a can of food, as soon as it went, okay, now it's done, and I can just proceed to eat the can. But every moment leading up to that is, am I going to do this or am I going to do something else? Am I going to do this or am I going to do something else? So, these days, when I have logic and emotion and they're fighting it out, I have a huge problem with analysis paralysis. I can't do either thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's like almost a third choice that I get stuck in.
Yeah, so that is not something I'm more of a let's do it and let's see what happens, and then it's, you know, I don't like getting, because that's the one thing I don't like getting stuck in, that paralysis of you know, you can be stuck in that for months, years.
Oh yeah.
And so then it's almost like, well, I'm just gonna do this and, you know, act on impulse and then, you know, figure it out later.
Yeah.
You know,
my fears are too big. I can't. I wish I could just not have your fear. Have
fear is still there, but
not have my fear. I mean, I said it backwards. So, Wow. Is impulsive behavior a generally positive thing?
That's the thing. It's 50-50. You never know.
Okay.
That's why, I continue to act on it, because sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. Um, everything where I've gotten to in my life has been because of, usually it can be traced back to one impulsive choice that was made really
Okay.
quickly. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. But yeah, it'd be easier to not make it if every single time I made an impulsive choice, that was a train wreck that went bad. But
Yeah.
it's always like, oh, it's good thing you did that. Or sometimes it's,
For me, I'm so afraid of failure
yeah,
that if one time out of 100 my impulsive thing crashed and burned, I would like not be able to do impulsive.
yeah,
I can be very impulsive if I check with the people around me that I trust and say, is it okay if I do this? And if they all say yes, okay, now I can move forward.
yeah,
But
I got you.
oh man, yeah, I'm locked. I'm completely on the side of this in terms of my own freedom.
Hmm.
I have huge restrictions of freedom out of fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fear is a tricky one because it's also a great motivator for me as well. It's the same kind of fear that's, the fear of something not happening is just as motivating as something happening. What if I don't do something and I stay in this rut forever? That's a fear.
Yeah.
And it you know,
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I can. Anyway, not talking about me. Enough of that. So, I'm gonna just pretend you've got people in your life whose their future you really care about.
yeah, totally.
What advice would you give them regarding whether they should do analysis or impulsiveness or logic or something? How would you tell them what to do?
It'd be kind of varies from person to person. Um, but it's one of those things where I wouldn't, say don't act on impulse, because that's often the times I feel most um, human and more in touch with emotions when
Yeah.
I'm acting that way. Because you can get stuck, especially as I've been getting older, where you got to make this logical choice, logical, and it seems like there's somewhat of a pattern and structure you can follow that makes sense and is logical. But when something, because that's one of the things, I don't get emotional very often. So when I do, it's something that I like to act on,
Okay.
and it's kind of new, and I don't really know how to handle it too well. So when I feel emotional, or it's like something that I want to kind of defy logic and kind of guide me, because it's going to be a little more interesting, and see where it takes me. And it just it feels a little just kind of like it's like you're ramping up and you're excited, and
Hmm.
um, yeah. So I don't know. I like acting on those feelings. I know it's not right for everybody and gets you into trouble sometimes, but it's something that I'll probably continue to do for
Okay.
my entire life. And I would recommend others, depending on their personal risk tolerance, do the same.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a question of risk tolerance.
Yeah.
I hear you. Um, yeah, I think that might be my limit is an unreasonably and illogically low risk tolerance.
Yeah.
Question from the audience: how much emotion and logic would ideally you weigh in your decisions in an ideal world? I think there's two idealies in there, and they should probably be one, but that's the question.
Yeah. Like how much should logic weigh in on your life versus emotional? Like what's the balance?
Uh huh.
Um, I don't know. I think there is definitely a healthy balance, and that's not one that I'm known to have. I'm kind of an extreme on the extreme end of things. So
Hmm.
I think there is an ideal balance, and I can see people who um, are able to use emotion in a more moderate and balanced way
Hmm.
um, than I necessarily am able to do. So, but for me, it's one of those things where you know, ideally, it'd be a perfectly balanced thing where you're able to use emotion and logic to benefit your life and make good, informed
Hmm.
decisions. But there's a certain level of excitement and risk when logic gets thrown to the wind, and it's like more of like a
Hmm.
romantic way to live your life. I don't know how else to put it, but it's like more of a not romantic and necessarily with the with somebody, but just like the way you live your life. I kind of like to live it in a more like a romantic sense, I guess.
Yeah. So, of the emotions that you act on, which are your favorites? Or maybe the question is, which are the most consistently positive in terms of the outcome?
Consistently positive. That's a nothing is really super consistent. That's the tricky part. But like, so recently, I have this thing I do a lot where I meet somebody and like fall in love instantly, and then drop everything and like chase that. So that's led me. It happens a lot, or it's happened in the past. Doesn't happen every single time I meet somebody, but it's led me to get married really quickly. It's led to divorces really quickly. But it's so when that feeling happens, it's not like I'm aware of this is a pattern, this is a trait you have, but it's still the feeling is so good and so powerful. It's like I still can't manage it and resist it. So that's kind of why I'm over here in LA. I met somebody online, came over here for 2 days, had that realization, was like totally into this, dropped everything, moved to LA, and then now it didn't work out for probably reasons you could assume, but now I'm here. But it's that same kind of pattern of making a big impulsive choice off some emotion like that. And every single time it happens, the emotion is so powerful that even with past experiences and logic being like, remember what happened last time you did this? It's still like, too late. I've already decided I'm doing it again, I'm ready to get, hurt again or fall in love again, whatever it is.
I'm remembering back to 20 years ago and 17 years ago and not since.
Yeah.
Another question. Do you often feel as though if you do not take action quickly, your opportunities will fade?
Yes. So that I think that is also going back to fear and how fear's in a lot of, fear guides a lot of decision. That's another fear I have. It's kind of like what you were saying about, you have a fear and you get stuck in that decision making process of and you get stuck. So that's kind of, this is another form of fear is, oh, here's this opportunity right now. If I don't act on this, it's going to go away. So that's kind of, it's a very, it does make you feel like you have to act quickly. It makes me, at least personally, feel like I have to act quickly on a lot of decisions, especially with, something like that involves somebody else. Like, well, they feel this way right now. Tomorrow they could feel completely different. So it's like, got to act on it right now because I don't know what it's going to be.
Yet another question. Are there decisions that you've made from pure logic that have or haven't resulted positively?
I wouldn't say they haven't. A lot of those decisions do, I would say overall have a higher positive result than the impulsive ones, but the result is the mundane and the expectedness of it makes it not as exciting or something. So you get it, you make the choice, everything happens like you thought, and then it's like, okay, now what? It's just kind of it's like not exciting, and it's like not the way, I get a lot of stress over that sometimes when I'm like, I need to live, more structured, like I need to, plan my life out. But then when I get into a routine, because I go through these cycles of chaos and routine, and then I get into a routine for a while, and then I start thinking, I'm like, I know what I'm going to be doing every single day, basically, for the next 20 years. And then that stresses me out. And then I'm like, okay, I got to like throw a wrench in this or do something to like mix it up, because then it just feels like I could hit fast forward and then the 20 years just goes by. And it's different if I'm enjoying it, which happens sometimes. But, if you're in a routine, even if it's a healthy one, and you're just kind of not really feeling it, you're not enjoying it, then it's like, this is not this is going to really, life is going to pass me by really quick if I keep doing this. So then that's when the impulsion and those voices start being like, you got to mess it up. You got to throw a wrench in this. You got to do something illogical to break this monotony so you can be excited again or whatever it is.
Okay. We don't have a claim, so there's a lot of the things that I would normally ask you about that are like, okay.
You don't have a what?
We didn't make a claim about the world.
Oh, a claim.
So,
what do you mean by a claim about the world?
You did not say, like, somebody might have said, it's a much better thing to follow your emotions.
Okay.
That would be a claim about the world. And then I could ask you things about your confidence, but you haven't made a claim.
Oh yeah.
And that's fine. You're not required to.
Okay, I don't really know what's going on here, so.
Yeah. No, so usually at this point I'd be asking you hypotheticals that might increase or decrease your confidence in your claim, but your confidence is I don't have a claim. So that's okay.
Yeah, I don't have too many claims. I'm pretty
okay.
Open to like learning and stuff, still it's like it's gonna be hard for me whenever I do make a claim about the world or I feel strongly about something, it gets flipped pretty quickly. And so I kind of got tired of trying to, this is the way things are. This is the way, even doing it with yourself. Like, this is the way you think. This is the way, and then, cause I do that a lot with with logic stuff too. I try and apply things broadly to my whole life. So it's like, you like something would be like, you like a schedule and you like routine, which is true on some things. And then I'm like, okay, that applies to me as a person. But then I'm like, this aspect of your life, you like chaos. So then it throws me off because I try and, put these blanket statements over, things. If it's either, personality traits or if it's traits about the world, people always are, people want what's best for everybody. That'd be like a blanket statement. Well, this person doesn't,
Right.
It's hard to try and put things in a box because things are always popping out, and then you get frustrated because your system that you're trying to organize all these things with is flawed.
Yeah, indeed. I find myself on the really like routine and certainty. Yeah. I think I'm probably way on the side of a spectrum in that regard. And I'm probably on a spectrum also. So that's probably an indication why, but I don't have that much insight, so I'm uncertain.
Yeah.
Which is okay. That's okay. So thank you. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
It's cool.
I
run here quite often, so I see you guys out here. I'm not quite sure what you're doing now. I know.
Yeah. Well, now you have an idea of what we're doing. And I welcome